Welcome to the Crimson Engine. My name is Rubidium. Today we are talking about stoicism as it applies to filmmaking and how probably the biggest determinant of your success as a filmmaker, writer, cinematographer, producer, director is the attitude that you bring to your career. You can get all the good breaks, you can have all the luck, and if you have the wrong attitude, you will still flame out, crash and burn. But you can, if you have the right attitude, if you have a good philosophy towards this work and to yourself, then it can take you 25 years until you catch a break and you'll still be fine. So this is a philosophy that I've developed over, probably the last couple of decades that really works in tandem with creativity, that works in tandem with being relaxed, being patient, having, high mental health, if that's a thing that's important to you. And I'll need to step back a little bit and talk about stoicism first, because there are two definitions in the, current cultural milieu of stoicism, the capital S and small s stoicism. Small s stoic, being a stoic, is someone who is, calm and patient under pressure or duress. It's someone who seems not to be affected by the craziness of the world. It's a compliment, but it's also sort of like, well, he's very stoic, like it didn't express much. That's not to be confused with capital S stoicism, which is a philosophy from ancient Greece that became very popular in ancient Rome and then continued down through the ages. It essentially boils down to, and to quote Ryan Holiday's title of his book, the obstacle is the way. That Stoic philosophy is the reason that Stoics are stoic. And if you wanted to summarize it in a longer sentence to give more, clarity to then the obstacle is the way, it's that Stoics believe that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to what happens to you that's important in life. So you can have incredible misfortune or incredible fortune, and they don't use those things that happen to you as a barometer or a metric for how successful you are. What they measure is, what was your reaction to it? Were you able to stay humble when great things happen to you? Were you able to stay confident when terrible things happen to you? That is the metric of a success of a Stoic. And a lot of people write about it. There's, books and books of both ancient and modern sources of people talking about what Stoicism is and how to practice it. But I thought I would apply it to filmmaking because that's what I have applied it to in this particular podcast. Stoicism isn't a religion. It's not having faith in something outside of yourself. It's basically bringing what your quality of life is, what your success and failure is, into the circle that you control, into your own thoughts and view of life. I believe that the only thing that will hurt your career is you. The only thing that will harm you and end your filmmaking career is not getting cheated by a corrupt producer, having a terrible accident on set, having, going blind in one eye, any outside forces will obviously affect you, but it's how you react to them that determines your success and failure of your filmmaking career. I'll give you some examples. Someone who's a young cinematographer who's done some award-winning short films, maybe done a feature or two, is really proud of their work. Then they hit a drought and can't get anything done. Then they get an offer to be a cinematographer or DP on a dating reality show. They something that they consider far below them. There'll be very little time and money to light things. They'll have to operate their own camera with a bunch of other people who don't have much experience. They, there'll be almost no prep time. There'll be almost no control of the image after they've shot it. It'll go to a colorist or just get sent out in Log or in Rec 709. So all the tools that you think are the things that you're using to control your image aren't available to you. Now you can say, oh my God, I can't not take this job. I need the money to pay my rent. But the job is going to be horrible. It's going to damage my reputation. I won't be seen as a serious cinematographer. I won't be able to get other work. If you go into it with that philosophy, you'll almost certainly be in hell the entire time. But if you go into it with the idea that, oh, this is great. They're taking away all my crutches. They're taking away all the things that I would normally use to get the image that I want. They're only leaving me with negative fill. Like I can put up a black piece of fabric, and the frame where I put the person in the frame of the camera, and maybe my depth of field. So if you approach it with the idea that this is going to be an exercise in what you can control, this is going to give you restrictions that make you better. Not only will the work be better itself, but you'll have a good time on set because you'll see it as a challenge. And the right way to approach that, I believe, is say, maybe this will hurt my credibility in some ways with some circles, but in 2 years' time, no one's even going to remember this. Maybe no one's even going to see it. And it's a chance for me to do the best with what I have and to, stop depending on fancy gear and control in the color suite and all these other factors and focus in on a part of my skill set that maybe I've neglected. Another example would be, a director who's written their own script, raised the money, and then at the last minute, the producer wants his girlfriend to be the female lead. She can't act. She's wrong age she's 20 years too young for the role. And you think, oh, this is going to blow the whole movie up. I'm absolutely screwed. This is going to be a disaster. Instead of approaching it with that mindset of I had put together something really special that I've dedicated years of my life to, now it's ruined. You say, okay, there's no way around this. This is dependent on, I don't want to risk the film falling over. How can I, as a director, get what I need from this actor when they don't have the skills, the look, whatever? How can I use this challenge to make myself better as a director and make the film still not adhere maybe to the original vision, because that's gone, but still make it interesting and get the experience of working with the other actors, working with the people I've chosen, putting it all together. If you approach it with that mindset, if you approach it with that philosophy, not only are you more relaxed, are you more peaceful, and so you're so much more creative trying to find the solution. And you're also so much happier, right? You're not saying, well, God gave me this challenge for a problem, so I will endure and make it through. You're saying, part of my job as a creative artist is to get the most from what is in front of me. This is what is in front of me. I'm going to get the most from it. Even if that's just the experience that I take away, even if the film still sucks and it was miscast and the actress can't say her lines or remember them or stand where she's supposed to, maybe you turn that character into more of an enigma. What was in Home Improvement, the guy whose face you never see over the back fence, or in the 1950s biblical epics where you never see Jesus's face. something like that. I'm being facetious, but it's possible. It is possible, and it's so much more possible if you come at it with the right attitude. Another example is when an actor shows up late, or they forget their lines, or they want to disagree with you over the simplest thing, like where does he put the glass down on the counter. So easily you can go into that, either the why me mindset or the I'm going to change this mindset, I'm going to fight with this person mindset, and fire the actor, scream and rant and rave, whatever it is, like the way you typically default to getting what you want. But if instead you're able to just stop, recognize that impetus to, either attack or retreat, and just give yourself a little bit of space and say, thank you for this opportunity. What can I learn from it? And say, this actor is really teaching me patience. I probably won't work with them again, but the patience that they've taught me is going to come in, be invaluable when I work with, some actor I really, really admire. Maybe, you do a movie with Daniel Day-Lewis and he has the same issue. And, this person who you thought was a terrible actor because they were doing some method thing, or they were, just the opposite, they were totally lazy, taught you that lesson years before, allowed you to deal with that lesson years before. So being grateful for the problems. Another one that I personally, struggled with for years was, problems with weather, problems with sound that caused shoots to run long. I tend to get up pretty early. I get up around 6 o'clock. If a shoot gets past midnight, I am almost non-functional. I am so tired that I couldn't even tell you my own name. And when that happened, because the producer on a commercial or a documentary wasn't prepared, when someone showed up late, we thought it was going to be 2 hours to the next location. It was 3.5. Then the grip truck got lost. They set up late. We don't get started until late, so we're already in overtime. All these things knock on, and you just, I find myself getting into overtime and just hating life, hating the process. Like, why did I get myself into this? My brain automatically goes into this state of, why me, or never again. Where in the last few years, I've been able to get into a state, recognize that in myself and say, oh, great, this is a test of my endurance. This is going to give me an opportunity to see how creative and how resourceful I can remain under pressure with lack of sleep. People pay to run ultra marathons. People actively sign up and fight to get into, BUDS or some special forces military training thing where you're kept awake, you're hour after hour, day after day, to push you through, to show you that you can show you that your potential is essentially unlimited, right? Like if there's a big enough why, there's always a how. And other people have made mistakes, and other people have made mistakes if you get to that point of 2 and 3 hours overtime, rather than choosing to be angry at that situation or that person, which, and I love that Buddhist line that, anger is drinking poison and hoping that it hurts somebody else. Like, the anger that you feel just makes you feel terrible. The other person doesn't even know that anger exists, or you're angry at someone who isn't even aware of your existence. Like when your plane gets delayed because a passenger was not on board in time, and then that knocks on and your plane gets delayed 5 hours. That happened to me coming back from Vegas, actually. And the whole plane, there was like 200 people. And it was this amazing litmus test of, this is what we're all enduring. Some of us are furious. Some of us are making the most of that time. And some of us are totally oblivious. Like we're all delayed equally. So who was making the best of that time, and who was kind of like stewing in the frustration and resentment and anger? It is a revelation to some people that they can choose their own mindset, their own approach to the problems that someone else has given them. And it's always the case. You're always in control of your own mind. Now, yes, anger flares up when we feel disrespected, when we're unheard, when someone tries to cheat us. But you can learn to recognize that anger, feel as much of it as you need to feel to get it under control, and then realize that it's not getting you to where you want to get to, and that actually there's probably something hidden in the situation that you're facing that you can get something from. So even though this person has wasted your time, they have, taken away the only non-renewable resource we have, in this inconvenience, in this disaster, there is something that you can take away. There is a valuable lesson if we're calm enough and patient enough and philosophical enough to look for. This leads me to my second main point of this episode, which I'm calling the long con. And it is that you will succeed in filmmaking if you stay in it long enough. The reason is that it is a lot like a lottery. The more you work, the more people you meet, the more people you hopefully impress, if not by your abilities, but by your, by your skills, by your ability to stay calm, ask questions, be patient. If you take that philosophy, even if you're a runner, even if you're an intern, and you have the right attitude towards this business, you create a positive reputation. People tell other people about you. People pass that on, and you just need one right connection. You just need, have a friend who, was just charging batteries. It's called digital tech on a TV show. Basically the smallest wage you can get. And he was always kind. He was always helpful. He was always curious. He was always respectful. And he got a job doing, shooting cheap music videos, like $1,000 music videos, like total budget $1,000. So he wasn't getting paid. But then he did a couple dozen of them, I think. And then one of them, that person got signed. And then they wanted him to do their bigger budget, their $20,000 or $10,000 music video. Once he did that and it got promoted and hit and got lots of streams, then that labels, other artists started using him. So you see that it's, as long as you're out there working, and if with the opinion of, I can always learn something, you shouldn't be afraid of taking pretty much any job for any money, because the payment of the job isn't the money. The payment of the job is to be on set and connect with all the other people there. So, work for free if you have to, pay to work if you have to, if you can afford to, which is essentially what being an intern is, and get a chance to be there. I mean, I had another friend who, and this is going to sound like it's made up, but it's not. She had directed or been the cinematographer for a lot of indie films, like, sub $20,000, $30,000 indie films, indie feature films. And after 10 years, all of those directors, when they had hit and gone on to bigger things, had then gone and got another cinematographer. So they had basically left her behind when they had hit, which is, obviously a big no-no. You should, bring the people with you that helped you get there. But for whatever reason, they decided not to. And, after 10 years in the business of having helped all these famous people become famous, she took a job as a camera operator on a TV show, right? Like a huge demotion. And within a couple of seasons was the DP of the entire TV show and then directing the TV show, because she didn't give up. She had a great attitude. She brought herself and all of her previous experience to everything. But you can't talk with her and not think of her as remarkable, because, she comes with all the experience of all those other jobs she's done, even if she's just the camera operator. Like, it's impossible for talent like that to hide. It would have really been easy for her to, after the indie films she directed, to say, I'm not going back to operating. That's like 7 levels down. But she was happy to bring her experience to whatever job was in front of her, and people on that show sensed that. She very quickly found her level. Filmmaking isn't like ballet. You don't have 5 or 6 years to become the prima donna before you get too old and then you age out. We can do this job, and people like Clint Eastwood is still directing in his 90s. We can do this job as long as we choose to do it. And the more time you give yourself, the more opportunity you have to get better at what you do, and people have to discover that you're good at it. So I really want to say what I wish I'd told myself in my 20s is that it's not a race. You're running your own career. You're not in competition with anybody else. There'll be some people that hit it huge in their early 20s and then spend 10 years in purgatory, like the Japanese stock market. There are other people that will have a slow burn, slow and steady. There'll be other people that don't really seem to go anywhere for a decade and then suddenly have an overnight success. If you're still working, if you're out there on set creating images, whether it's with a camera or a computer or AI or whatever else is coming, if you're in the storytelling business, if you don't quit and you continue to learn and you continue to make connections, you will make it. That's what I've seen over, I've been doing this since I was 16. I'm 46, so many years. And I've seen it time and time again. Most people quit. Most people drop out. Most people are attracted to the bright lights, literally, and the idea that they're going to become the next Christopher Nolan or Steven Spielberg. When that doesn't happen, they go on to do something else. They go into advertising and become an agent or whatever it is. If this is what you're drawn to and you have the right attitude, the right philosophy of, I can always learn something, I'm going to be in charge of me. If you do it long enough, you will find success, whatever your definition of that is. So don't let your stories die inside you. Find a way to bring them out into the world. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.